Hi guys, what are we gonna do today? We are going to make this industrial clipboard. So let's get started.
So the first thing I did is I got a thin piece of wood, and I've done several projects with these. And this is just a wood tag that we carry, but you could use any piece of wood that you have, just to scrap and cut it. This happens to be 8 by 18, but use what you've got, whether it looks like a tag or it's just square. I have already painted this, and I painted it just an off-white. And I'm gonna be doing decoupage on it, so I like a bright, light color under it for my paper. So I'm using a thin tissue paper, and I am going to use, this is a liquid patina, but you could use slow dry gel medium, you could use a Mod Podge, whatever you like to use for your adhesive to get your paper on. And each one works a little differently, and I usually use whatever's close at hand is what I use at the time. So I don't even necessarily have a real preference. It just depends on what you like using. Waterier, or the lighter weight the gel is, the more bubbles you'll seem to get, but when it dries, they come out. This piece is not so big that I could just coat it all at once and just put my paper down. If your piece is really large, I do a section at a time. I just really want to make sure it's all covered because you will get bubbles where you did not put your medium. I am just going to lay this down carefully, starting at one edge. I usually try to give myself a little bit of an overlap. And you can use a credit card. Sometimes I use my hands. But when I get it on, then I take some plastic, some saran wrap. This is just a plastic bag. And I'm gonna have a couple bubbles, but I don't mind a little bit of it. And I'm gonna smooth it out. Seems like your fingerprints have more pressure that you can rip the paper easier. So that's why if I'm using a plastic bag, it seems I have less chance of that. The other thing I found that gives you bubbles and wants to give you pressure is when you have extra pieces hanging off. Fairly quickly after I've got this on, I try to use a sanding block and just get the excess off so it's not pulling and tugging. And as it dries, a lot of these extra little bubbles will come out. So you want to let this dry. I think I'm going to put some transfers on here, and I'm going to turn this one into a clipboard. And I have some really fun paper I'm going to put in here, so I know that's going to be in there. This transfer is one that we carry, and it's called Label Ephemera. I love this because it's just lots of typography that I can add to almost any image I have. I'm cutting this staple off because I usually staple my pieces together so the backing doesn't come off. I can see where my hole is here from my tag, so I'm just going to push my screw through there, and I'm adding a big funky clip just so I can line up where my paper is going to be. So I am going to add just a little bit of my crackle stamp to the top of this, and I'm using a gray ink. And I'm just going to do a hit and miss on different spots of this board. Okay, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to put a coat of wax on this, and then we'll be done. So whenever I'm working, especially with paper, I always use a clear wax first, and then I add what other color I want, and I'm going to use a little bit of a dark wax. If you put a dark wax straight onto paper, it will get very dark and you're not going to be able to get it off. But if you start with the clear wax, then you can blend it out. And this also helps seal the transfer. Put my screw back in here with my clip. And then I'm just adding a couple sheets, but you could just add a whole notebook to this. And even at the bottom, you could add a little Scrabble tile holder to hold your pencil or whatever you would like.
So I hope you guys thought this was really fun and easy, and you try some of these ideas out.
We just used some of the paper from a ledger book, but you could probably find some fun paper to add to your clips or whatever you decide to do with your board, but whatever you do, have fun.